one of the strategies of European governments has been to deny, push back, declare silence in response to our call. And with time, this movement would die a natural death. Because as the younger generations of black people become more and more tied up in the material realities of this 21st century, the more they will distance themselves from these kinds of conversations. So the West is playing this game. Let us time out. Let us keep this conversation at bay for as long as possible. And somewhere in the future, the young people will say, you know, there's no future in this conversation. Let us walk away. What you have just heard is a reaction to that. And the reaction is important because this reparations movement is not a contemporary movement. We are arguably in the fifth wave of this movement. I will give some perspectives also that interface the Caribbean diaspora response with Africa. And I can tell you that from a Caribbean perspective, this is not the first wave, this is the fifth wave. The moment emancipation legislation was put in place, the emancipated people were calling for reparations. From the middle of the 19th century, we have the evidence of the emancipated people calling for reparations and using the argument that slavery is about the stealing of a person's right to the fruits of their labor. And therefore, the labor of over 50 million African people was stolen from them. The right to benefit from the fruits of their labor. And that was the argument they used to demand compensation. The European governments all said, go away. Go away. Your reparations is your freedom that we have just given you. That is it. Nothing more. So we had that debate. Then we had the debate at the end of the 19th century where diaspora African peoples were demanding to have the right to return home to Africa because they said we were stolen people and stolen people have the right to return from where they were stolen and that you should pay to return us to the places where we were stolen from. And that was our second phase. And then you had the third phase in the 1930s and 40s, the war against colonization, leading to independence, leading to national liberations, and compensation, reparations were all part of that conversation. But this development with debt aspect, every Caribbean colony where the people fought for independence in the 50s and 60s, all of them went to London or to Paris or to Amsterdam asking for development support to begin nation building. We are transitioning from colony to nation. You have been extracting the wealth from our societies for 300, 400, 500 years. You need to put something back to lay the infrastructure for our transition. All of the European government says, no, we owe you nothing. Go away. We owe you nothing. And thus, they all began their journey, funding their development with debt. That's how it all started. basic infrastructure. You are now an independent nation. You need hospitals, you need schools, you need roads, you need bridges, you need agricultural reform. All of these basic things you need to build a nation, you had to borrow to get those resources. So for all of us in Africa and the diaspora, our nation-building development project started with a deep immersion in debt. But this is a highly political movement. And Lillian is right. Without solidarity, it has no future. Without solidarity, it has no future. And this is why, standing here against the background of what happened in Durban in 2001 at the UN conference is so significant. All of us gathered in Durban in 2001 with reparations on the agenda. We were all there. It's hard to imagine, it was 24 years ago. The diaspora in Africa went in different directions. We arrived from the diaspora demanding reparations, and all of the African governments turned against the diaspora. Ghana, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Senegal, all of them said, we have no interest in reparations, and we are standing with the Europeans, and we are breaking ranks with the diaspora. I was called into a meeting. I was representing the Caribbean delegations, all of the Caribbean nations. And I was called to a meeting, President Mbeki. We in the diaspora must stand down. We must stand down because the African nations are standing with the Europeans that reparations is a backward movement. The president of Ghana, President Kufuor, made it clear to me that I must stand down. So here we are, 24 years later, and Africa has risen up in the way we have always expected Africa to lead from a diaspora perspective, because we knew that there could be no reparations until Africa and its diaspora were on the same page, speaking with the same voice, and this is what happened here in Accra with the Accra Declaration 3 years ago. So we have come, and that history is important because, you know, we heard the statement earlier about the issue of not looking back. Well, let me give you some of the quick arguments, Lillian, that the Europeans have used against us. Well, first of all, they said, the crimes we have committed against you are too big to litigate. The crimes we have committed against you, slavery, slave trade, and colonization, the crime is too large. You cannot repair a crime that is so large. It is unimaginable what we would have to pay to repair this crime. It is too large, so let us move on. No economist can imagine quantifying the dimensions of a repair movement, so let's move on. Then they said, well, it was a long time ago. All of those who were the victims of those crimes have died and gone. It's too long ago. That was an argument they used. But to my mind, the most significant argument was that, listen, the reason why you have failed to achieve economic transformation and development in your countries is because you do not have a culture of economic development. You do not know how to accumulate wealth. You do not know how to manage money. You have no institutions to allow money to filtrate through a system of institutions. You are the victims of your lack of economic culture. And we in Europe, on the other hand, We have developed, we have transformed because we have a culture of economic institution building. So blame yourself. Now, that is where the argument really got to the spirit, I think, of all black people, that we are poor because we are poor. And on the other hand, we in Europe, we are rich because we have always been rich. And it has nothing to do with the exploitation of you, your labor, your resources, your institutions. This is a highly political argument. Everyone is involved in it. The politicians are involved, the lawyers, the intellectuals are all involved. And I can tell you, because one of the hats I wear is editor of the History of Africa, the UNESCO History of Africa. Our African historians have a very important role to play in all of this now. And this notion about not looking back, well, the metaphor of driving a vehicle was used. Try driving a car without a rearview mirror. Try driving a vehicle without a rearview mirror, and you will see what would happen. If you don't have a rearview mirror to see what's behind you, you will never navigate the future. It is not a binary. We must stop using the binary. Forward, backward. Don't look back, look forward. It's a false binary. You do both at the same time. At the same time. Stop this notion that you are responsible for your economic transformation and stop blaming the historical forces and the people who occupy those historical spaces. You have to do both at the same time. You have to take responsibility for yourself in the present, but you also have to hold those who committed the crimes against you. They must be held accountable. And they must be told, you must come back from the past, come into the present, and take your share of responsibility for the mess you have created. That is how it's done. It's not either or, it is both at the same time. As the Americans will say, you have to learn to run while chewing gum. Do them both at the same time. So, Lillian, I wish to thank you for the provocation which you have made here this morning. All of us, I think, we now feel enlightened and we feel encouraged because it is true. There can be no sustainable economic transformation and development without a development program based upon reparatory justice. The international financial systems, the global trade arrangements, the International Court of Justice, all of these are just fora where this struggle is being fought. And it will be fought until such time as it happens. It has never meant to be an overnight success. This is an intergenerational struggle. And it will go on and on until such time as we are satisfied that justice has been secured. And that is the message that we are sending to the world.